you've mentioned minimal alcohol, but how much does alcohol, smoking, or marijuana, or psychedelics actually affect lifespan? Do we have enough research on this yet, or?
Well, we do on tobacco smoking. There's obviously, it's very clear that's a decade off your life. And what's interesting is that what we're learning about these various things that you can do to hurt yourself or to protect yourself is that what's happening is that your body is aging at a different rate. So smokers, you can measure it, are older biologically than people who've never smoked. And that's why they look older too.
Wow.
We can measure that now in my lab. If I took your blood, I could tell you how old you are biologically, not just your chronological.
I want to do that. I saw you post this on Instagram that you're like 46. Is that right? Or you're 42, or what is it?
I went down to, what was it, 44, I think,
okay,
or 42. It bounces around, but it's usually a decade younger than what I am.
That's cool. So what do? You take a blood sample, then you what? Measure the blood?
There's two ways of doing it. There's one company that I advise called Inside Tracker, and that's what I use.
I've had that too, yeah.
You've done that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they come to your home or you donate, and then you get this this readout of, I think it's 40 different parameters, and they use an algorithm and tell you how old you are. So I'm 42 or something like that. I'm in the top 2% of people from my age for youthfulness. So I'm happy with that.
Just dusted off, a little brag over there. I like it, yeah.
Yeah, well.
You better be if you're researching this. And the top scientists in the world on this.
Yeah, I don't like to brag. That's not what Australians and scientists do. But what I do want to say is I use my body as an experiment.
Yeah. And
try to be a role model. And I've been optimizing my lifestyle for 20 years now, based on this feedback from Inside Tracker for the last 12, 13 years.
Wow.
And you can see the graphs of things going out of the optimal zone, and then I make a change based on science, and it comes back, or even better.
So we know from smokers that their biological age is older when they smoke, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, well, that's one test. The Inside Tracker test is what I do routinely every few months. But there's a new type of test that my colleagues and in my lab we've developed. It's called the DNA methylation test. It's also known as the Horvath test, named after my friend Stephen Horvath at UCLA. The way to think of this is, if you've ever heard of the epigenome.
I've heard of that.
These are the control systems that control our DNA. It turns out that system you can measure. It's chemicals on your DNA that change over time predictably. And we've just developed a way to measure that 100 times cheaper than it was before. And I'm going to bring this test to the public so that people can test their biological age.
At home or something? Or?
It should be a cheek swab. That's what we're developing.
So you don't have to prick or take blood or anything. You do a cheek swab.
Exactly.
And then you ship it in or something? Or?
Yeah, you'll post it in. And then you get, hopefully just a week later or less, here's your credit score for your body.
Well, that's cool.
And then even better, here's how do you slow it down or reverse it based on everything we know about you.
Wow, that's cool.
We'll take you on that journey. So do this, eat this, swallow this.
That is cool. I got to take that test.
Yeah, well, you can get on the wait list if you want.
Okay. Where can
there's a website, because we are taking names right now. We may do some studies with early adopters too.
That's cool. Where's the wait list for that?
It's called Tally. Tally, tallyhealth.com. And the reason I'm excited about it is it's very hard to focus on what works, because we have no idea. You exercise, you hope that it's good.
Yeah.
Is it too much, too little? If I eat this, does it help me? We need a dashboard for our bodies, and that's what these give you.
That is really cool. Okay, so we know that smoking makes you age biologically. That's why it makes you look older, smoking. What about drinking alcohol? We've talked about wine and the substance in wine that could be supportive, but alcohol in general, does that affect biological age and aging?
Well, it all depends on quantity.
Gotcha.
1 glass a day, most doctors would say, especially if it's red wine, it's fine. And the alcohol actually can help with the cardiovascular system, reduces bad cholesterol, and more importantly, raises the good cholesterol, HDL.
This is for red wine.
And the alcohol in white wine does a little bit of good too.
Okay. But beer?
So beer will raise the levels of uric acid, which is a breakdown product of a protein breakdown product that you can pee out. But if you have too much beer and other types of food that contain a lot of this type of protein, you will raise your uric acid level. So why does that matter? It's becoming very clear that if you have high uric acid levels, your body will age faster.
We just had Dr. David Perlmutter on, who has a
Exactly.
book about uric acid, talking
Yeah.
about like this is one of the root causes of poor health
Yeah.
and aging faster and things like that. So
Well, I talked to him a
alcohol,
lot.
you talked to him a lot?
Yeah. I actually was one of the first people to read his book before it came out.
Yeah, it's
and
really good.
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
I now measure my uric acid levels. You can get little test strips. You can just buy them
Pee
at
on
your
it.
usual.
You just pee on it?
No,
or how's
you,
it?
you,
swab
you
it?
spit on it, and 10 seconds later you see
You see your
uric acid
levels.
levels. Yeah,
And so the lower the level, the better.
right.
The higher the level means there's risk for what?
Everything, according to David, it's really bad for cancers and heart disease mainly. But I think he's right that it's a sign of accelerated aging.
The higher the uric level, the faster you're going to be aging.
Yeah,
And a larger amount of consumption of alcohol, specifically beer, I'm hearing raises that level.
beer in particular has
Beer
a
in
lot of the
particular.
chemicals in it that will raise uric acid, unfortunately. And that's from David Perlmutter. He gave me a list of foods. And I saw beer
beers.
on there. Like, oh, that sucks.
Now, is there any benefit to beer in biology, in science? Does it help you improve the quality of your health? Does your brain get better? Does your body, your system get better? Does it make you younger at all? Or are there no benefits to beer biologically and in your brain?
There are benefits because there's alcohol in there, and a little bit of alcohol is good for your cardiovascular system. But
But there's other things that's good for your cardiovascular system
For sure.
too, right? That
Yeah.
you don't need.
so beer on the list of alcohols is at the bottom for health,
Got it.
mostly, unless it's full of sugar. Like those very sweet wines, I think would be a problem. But beer does have a lot of vitamin B group vitamins, B3, tons of it.
But you can
which
get
is
that
good.
in other ways too.
You can. So what can you do? I mean, you got to live as well.
Right, I hear
I
you.
don't prescribe a life that's prolonging and feels longer. You got to live a little.
Right. Enjoyment, the enjoyment of the richness of life. Yeah.
Right. Though I am trying not to drink alcohol these days.
I've never been drunk in my life.
Yeah, amazing.
Never been drunk. I don't find it amazing because I just never found I never had the desire to do it. I like tasted some when I was 16 and I was like, I don't understand why I would ever drink this. Plus it was also for me, maybe that's one of the reasons in your mind I look younger, I look like I haven't aged more, is because I found it as an advantage in sports. When everyone else was drinking, I was like, oh, it's weakening their immune system, it's making them slower mentally. This will give me an edge in athletics. They were hungover after games in practice, and I was like, I'm going to be sharp. And so I just kept on with it. I was like, this is just going to make me sharper. Now, I have my other vice. I use sugar in other ways. This is my vice. So I'm not perfect. But does alcohol make you look older too?
In excess.
In
yeah.
excess, gotcha.
Yeah. So a little bit every day is okay, a little bit. But most doctors, like physicians, would say if you overdo it, you will age. And actually what you do as a researcher is you look at people who live a long time and compare them to either their twin, which has been done, or family members.
Interesting.
Yeah, and actually how you live your life has a massive impact on how long you live. There's a twin study. They took identical twins, genetically identical, in Denmark, and they said, okay, let's look at them through their life. And there were massive differences in how they looked and how long they lived. And when they went back to see what the causes were, they could figure out, first of all, that 80% of their lifespan was determined by how they lived, not their genetics.
You mean the way they felt about themselves, the people they hung out with, their environment, the activities they took on, or what do you mean?
Well, mostly their lifestyle, what they ate, did they
Okay.
smoke, did they drink, did they exercise? Those are
Did
the
they
big
sleep
things.
well, all that stuff?
Right.
Okay.
And those that did all the good things, the same genetics, twins, born the same day, one could live 10 years longer than the other.
Now, this is what I'm curious about. Were these twins hanging out all the time? Or were they, because usually when you're hanging out with someone all the time, you pick up the similar habits, right? You pick up a similar lifestyle habit as your parents, as your partner, and you kind of eat the same things. It's really hard to be like, I'm going to drink every day and I'm not going to drink every day if you're living together and in the same room, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I wonder how that
but
is, yeah.
Maybe they got separated at birth or something.
Interesting.
But it does tell you a lot. The fact that 80% of our future health is in our own hands is liberating.
That's really
Because
cool.
often we think, it's not going to make a big difference. It really makes a big difference how you live your life every day. Focus on that. And one thing that I do is I look at my future self and I ask myself, what's that guy saying to me today if he could speak to me?
What's he saying? Please don't eat that.
Exactly.
Please
right?
don't drink that anymore. You had enough, like you're going to hurt me in 10
yes,
years.
that's how you need to think about it.
It's coaching yourself 10, 20, 30 years out.
Right.
It's interesting. I asked David Perlmutter, I said, what are some things you wish you would have done sooner to improve the quality of your health? And he was like, flossing. I didn't go deeper into that, but I remember him saying that. And I was like, there's wisdom in whatever it is. Maybe he had some gum issues or something he had to deal with at one point that was really affecting him for a year or two. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But if he could go back, he'd be like, I wish you would have done this better, so I didn't have to suffer later. Right?
Yeah.
What are the things you've done or you're doing now that your 10-year-old self will be so happy for? Like if he was in front of you right now, he'd just be hugging you and high-fiving you nonstop. The things you're doing that he will appreciate in 10 years. And then what are a few things that he's going to say, man, I really wish you wouldn't do that right now?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. So I measure myself so I can speak scientifically, not just that it makes me feel good. It's the one main meal a day.
He would be grateful for.
I'm sure of it. And as a result, I'm leaner and more ripped. I hate to say that word.
You look lean.
I am lean.
You look really lean.
I've gone
shredded
over the last 2 years from 150 pounds to 133.
Yeah, you look leaner even from the first time I had you on. Your face is leaner and chiseled.
Yeah, I don't think I can lose any. I want to lose any more.
Yeah,
I need to go back to the gym and do a little bit more.
So the one meal a day, but you weren't doing one meal a day, what, 5-10 years ago?
No, I only started during the pandemic. This is new for me too. It's hard actually when you begin.
Very hard.
You feel hungry because you've got those crashes that make you really hungry, and you've got this hormone called ghrelin that makes you hungry. But once you get through that, it takes about 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So anyone who tries it, make sure that you don't give up early. Just power through, and then your liver will wake up.
One main meal a day.
So that's one. The other thing I think that he will be happy is don't eat sugary foods.
Oh man.
Yeah. Don't eat that cake. So at a restaurant, when they say, do you want dessert? I always say no, but then I'm hoping that someone at the table orders what I want. Yeah, that's all. But that's all I need. Right. I need to taste it. I don't need to fill myself with a cake.
Gotcha. Because you still want to enjoy your life and live a full life, but you don't want to, in 10 years, be like, why do they eat cake every day?
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Really. Your future self will thank you for it. Lifting weights, I know you do that, so I need to do more of that. I got a standing desk, so most of the day I'm standing, which is great. Again, you have to get used to it. You'll feel tired for the first few weeks.
Yes.
Your legs will. I'm now mostly focused on eating plants.
When did you start that?
That's recently.
Eating mostly plants.
Yeah, I've switched. I love meat. I wish that I could eat more. But you just got to look at the science. There's some really good studies of thousands of people who just look at how long people live and what they eat. And I mean, it's not even an argument.
But there's so many people that bring in the argument, well, all these people have cured these diseases or whatever, gotten rid of these things from meat only. But people make the argument, right? Like you see it online, people making the argument for meat. So where are they finding these research studies of people living longer on an only meat diet?
I don't know.
But you're not seeing them. You're not seeing studies of anyone that lives over 100 that all they do is eat meat.
Well, there might be one person or two, but when you look at 10,000 people, what they eat, it's the vegan and the pescatarian that win out.
In the blue zones, right.
Yeah, and the numbers are something like that. You drop it down to, you got 88% less chance. Or actually it's 12% chance for most diseases. So most diseases are protected by these diets.
Really? Wait a minute, 88% less chance of what?
Of dying at any one point in the age range of the study, which is
by being a pescatarian.
Yeah. So it's vegan, pescatarian, those are the best. Then above that would be actually pescatarian was better than vegetarian. A little bit of meat seemed to help, but it has to be fish.
Mm-hmm. And with the omega-3s in there, right?
Yeah, and particularly oleic acid's good, which is found in avocados and olive oil. That activates one of the protective enzymes that we study in the lab.
Which acid?
Oleic, EIC.
What is some of that, but not a lot of
It's
that?
a monounsaturated fatty acid, or a MUFA. If you have a bit of olive oil, there's a supplement online that I get that has high levels of oleic acid in it that I take every day
Okay, cool.
with the DHA and EPA,
Yeah, all that stuff, yeah.
all that good stuff.
Yes, okay.
So that's my fish intake, is a pill.
You don't eat fish, or you eat very little.
Well, I'm evolving my diet. So I've gone from a Mediterranean diet over the last 10 years to the last 2-3 months to all plant-based, no dairy, and no meat. And I'm just seeing what happens to my body. I'm measuring things. It's an experiment.
Yes.
It's not a philosophy. And if things don't work out
You'll go
biologically, I'll go back. I mean, I'd love to go back to a steak. I'm Australian after all. But, I'm driven by science, and that's all it is.
Yeah. Okay, so you got these 4. Was there another thing that your future self would thank you for? 1 meal a day. Don't eat sugary foods. That's going to be one of the most challenging for me. Lifting weights. Eating mostly plants. Was there anything else?
Get control over psychological stress.
Oh, yeah. Why is this so important?
Well, the main problem is you have high levels of cortisol when you're stressed out psychologically. And it's clear that people who have really high levels of stress are chronically ill. And even it accelerates gray hair. That's actually a fact. It's not just a myth. You really are getting older if you have stress.
Really? So this scientifically proven that if you're stressed out all the time, or more frequently, you're going to get older, biologically.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. And,
can you
and
reverse gray hair without dyes?
Yes.
Really?
Well, not routinely, but there are examples of that. There are some drugs that have shown in the clinic that make hair go gray, from gray to brown. The best example I can tell you is that when people are stressed out, let's say they're in the banking world and they're losing their minds, you can find hairs that start to turn gray. Okay, so you look at them and they're a little bit gray at the bottom. Oh God, I'm turning gray. Okay, then they get given a vacation and they go away for a couple of weeks, and guess what happens to the hair shaft?
It gets brown.
It's brown again.
Come on.
You can find these gray-brown segments of hair in
Interesting.
people. Yeah. And what they tracked it down to was that the cells that make the hair pigment start to shut down, but they can be reinvigorated. But I suspect once you've been gray for a number of years, it's really hard.
It's hard to
get back
reverse
again.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but I'm the first person to say aging is not unidirectional. In my lab, we're driving it forwards and backwards at will. It's not
That's crazy.
really difficult anymore once you figure it out. Any high school student could do it these days, in a mouse at least.
Make sure that reward, really bask in it, really appreciate what you've done and what's come to you. And here's a very important but, take that feeling of being saturated with dopamine, the huge win, and attach it to the effort process that got you there.